And we are recording.
Coming to you live on this beautiful day for the Dutch national anthem, we have a lot of opinions, and you're going to listen to us talk about them for an hour. It's the 1 Hour, One Brain Cell podcast.
Mm.
That's going to be such an interesting noise for people on audio to figure out what that was. Richie is playing Bartender Simulator over there, and we're going for our third straight podium, as it were, in succeeding in keeping the episode to an hour, as promised. As always, I'm joined by my co-host. Richie is one half of the team behind We Espresso.
I am joined by my co-host Jordan, who made me wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to record this podcast.
That's not true. That's so not true. But
Spreading misinformation on the internet, folks.
Even if I were, it's not like I personally went to your home and set an alarm or stood at the foot of your bed with an air horn and made you wake up at 6 a.m. Like, that was a choice. We have a lot to talk about in the show notes today, one of which is a thing that did require getting up at 6 a.m. This was the Formula One Imola Grand Prix. I will not be saying the full name because we'll be here for an hour. Anyway, where do we even want to start? Our show notes are so disorganized. Yet again, it's like a third straight episode that we just don't have any order to the show notes.
Dealer's choice.
Oh, dealer's choice. Great. I was dreading that you would say that.
Whatever is at the tip of your tongue.
Okay. Let's just start with Imola so that the folks that don't care about Formula 1 Hour, Formula 1 Brain Cell can skip ahead.
Yes, let's do that. Yes, this was the first of the European season. So that means that all the races are taking place at an unreasonable hour for the folks who are on the West Coast, like myself. So the race began at 6 a.m. The sun was just barely rising here in the beautiful state of Arizona. I was working on approximately 4-ish hours of sleep or so. But luckily, I thought ahead and I had my laptop at the ready on my bedside table, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be genius about this. That way I don't actually have to wake up or get out of bed, don't have to get in my pajamas, not to do anything. I can just roll over, grab my laptop, open it, press play, and we're good. And just keep my little blankie on and watch the race, half asleep, and it was great.
I was in my living room with a blankie, so it really wasn't that different. But my ESPN keeps signing me out, and then every time it does, I have to text my dad for the access code, and so I have to just watch it on my TV because for some reason that one won't sign me out, but the one on my phone does.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to actually vacate my bed and go sit in the living room, but it was a normal hour for me, so I can't really complain about that. It's like, I don't have a lot of sympathy because I was waking up at 3 a.m.
This is redemption for the early races of the season where they were racing at god awful time, middle of the night, and I was like, I'm a night owl, so I was able to stay awake and watch them all. So this is redemption.
It was like
now.
1 a.m. my time, 10 p.m. your time, and you were like, "How's it going?" It's like, I don't want to talk about it.
So you'll have redemption during the European season, depending on the week, if I wake up or not.
That is true. Yeah, so I might be on my own for a week in the future if you decide not to wake up for it. But not a lot of drama to talk about. No sprint race this weekend, just a straight 3 practice quali full race. Not a lot of drama. right? I mean,
No,
drama
no.
drama may be in the last 10 laps, but, like,
Yeah,
just
we don't have a
in
lot to
general.
talk about when it comes to this. Oh, the only thing we'll talk about is the thing we talked about before prior to the show. So we'll get to
Mhm.
that in a second. But yeah, the race was not really much of a race for the first 55 laps. It was no passing, no overtaking, no drama, no not a lot of memes, just kind of there, just happening.
Yeah,
And
more memes out of the practice sessions than memes out of the race, which doesn't usually happen.
mhm. Exactly. And so luckily we got a little shock to the system and there was actually a little bit of drama at the end of the race and Lando Norris was trying to win his second straight Grand Prix and cut what was a 6-second gap at one point, 7 seconds even maybe at one time, down
Mhm.
under a second into DRS range with a couple laps to go, and he ran wide and that extended the gap another maybe 3 or 4 tenths, and then that was the race. And Lando couldn't catch up, and he ran out of time. Checker flag. Max Verstappen wins the Imola Grand Prix once again.
Yeah, there was definitely some drama at the end, but I guess we could talk about it because this is really what ended up sealing the race was the way that the track is structured. It got a little adjustment from last year to this year, and Richie and I are actually both fresh off playing this track on F123, so we can talk a little bit about it. But essentially, they took out a little bit of the runoff area, which is like it's not track surface, but it's smooth enough that you could go over it and not suffer too much if you accidentally run your car wide onto this runoff area. And what they did is they took some of that out and they replaced it with gravel, which is very unforgiving. If you go into the gravel, you can spin, it chews up your tires, you lose a lot of time, you kick up a lot of dust. It's just like not good for anybody to go into the gravel. And we saw probably almost every driver take a trip into the gravel or into the grass during the 3 practice sessions this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. Nobody did during the race. I think they had figured it out. But that's one of the things that prevented a lot of opportunistic overtaking or even just a little bit of higher throttle, higher aggression from the drivers because it's so dangerous to get so close to the edges now. There's already not a lot of room to pass on this track, and then they cut it in half essentially by
Mm-hmm.
pushing all the gravel traps in further. They're like, why is there no overtaking? Because you made it so technically difficult that nobody wants to try it.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that has a long history in Formula One.
Mhm.
They took a long break, about 15 years. They took a break from racing here, and I think we can kind of see why now. And I wonder, I don't know how long their contract is now, but yeah, I think it's maybe time to move on from Imola. There's already another Italian GP later in the season, so it already
Mhm.
has one race on the calendar. Um, but there is a lot of history there from what 1980 to 2006. It ran
Yeah,
there.
there's good and bad history
Yeah,
with Imola. Yeah.
unfortunately, yes. This was this weekend we were honoring the 30th anniversary of the death of not only Ayrton Senna, but also another driver as well who unfortunately, Ratzenberger,
Roland
right?
Ratzenberger,
Roland
yeah, from
Ratzenberger,
Austria.
who also passed away back in 1994. So yeah, it
Mhm.
was a little bit of a sad weekend, but it was cool to see Sebastian Vettel and the rest of the grid get out and honor Ayrton and Roland, running like a 5K around the track, and
So,
and
some of them scootered a 5K, some of them
yeah,
biked a
exactly.
5K, but yeah, they all got out and
And
participated.
then
Seb drove a couple of laps
mm-hmm,
in Senna's McLaren, I believe,
mm-hmm, yep, yep,
around the track just as a nice little tribute. But we love Vettel. Vettel's a good guy.
yeah, exactly. I miss him on the grid. I miss him on the grid.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was. So I'm curious to see the future of Imola, if they make any changes, if it stays on the calendar or not. Because I know the reason why we brought this up before the show is because Checo was talking about it, and he was basically like, "Yeah, this isn't a Formula One track anymore," which I can totally see why. There's a lot of other places around the world that are could probably host a better Grand Prix, right? I know I saw some people talking about Max was running the 24 hours in Nürburgring,
Yeah,
on iRacing, just literally hours before he was about to get in the car.
So
for
to clarify,
Formula.
also, he wasn't driving for 24 hours straight. It was they had a team of 4 people from Team Redline that were a part of a couple of cars, and it was like you drive a stint in the car. But Max's stint, like Richie was saying, was literally hours before. And I think they were leading when he left to go to the track. He was talking to Ocon about it. And they were leading, but he didn't know how the race had finished. And then they ended up winning. I think they said he left his stint with like a 30-second lead to second place or something, which is insane. Like, I don't even know how you do that. But it was, crazy. So Max won 2 races this weekend in like 24 hours, essentially.
Yeah, just ridiculous.
iRacing is his job. Formula One is his hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, he's crazy.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I like to see literally anybody else do that. I don't know anybody else that really does that, except he's the only person that does this. Like, there are other
we hear about
other
it.
drivers
like
around the world that
drivers.
will they'll race it, but they're not going to do it on a race weekend, right? Like,
No.
or you have other guys who will run other series. Kyle Larson, right? He'll go out and run dirt races during the week, and then come back and race NASCAR on Sunday. But you don't have somebody going on doing a live stream on Twitch, run it their stint of a 24-hour race, and then
from like
a few hours
a mobile. It was like a mobile trailer setup that they had to get Max because he's literally out of town. Like, just it was crazy the lengths he had to go through to do that. And I think it was really only like last week or 2 weeks ago that it was on the Team Redline stream, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I do have to race Imola that weekend, huh?" Whoops. It's like, what? Does Max not own a calendar? Somebody get him one. Yeah.
He looked very happy on the top step at the podium too. I know you commented on that.
He did. It was a hard-earned race win. It was a hard-earned pole position. I don't think either he or Checo were super comfortable in the car all weekend. So it was definitely not coast to victory Max Verstappen form. It was, I have to fight off Lando behind me. Which, I don't know, makes it more exciting for the viewers for sure, regardless of who ended up winning. There was a little bit of drama in those last 10 laps, but I was sweating the whole time. I was very nervous. I was not watching. I was in the other room for a little bit of practice 3, and knowing that Max was on an outlap, and I had the TV on in the other room, and they were like, "And there's a Red Bull in the wall," and just the like cold fear that ran through my veins because I knew that Max was on an outlap. I was like, please. And it was Checo, and Checo just spun a little bit and hurt his front wing. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was, I don't know, it was not a comfortable weekend for Red Bull. So we'll see. All the other teams as well are bringing upgrades, and it seems like the competitive advantage has certainly narrowed from team to team. Everybody's looking a little better. Even Alpine's looking better over the last like 2-3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We hit a lot on Alpine.
Yeah, I was surprised that how well Lando did on that final stint there, and how I think that just shows that things have closed up a little bit, which is good if you're a fan of the sport in general, not just a fan of Red Bull, which I consider myself to be a fan of the sport in general, and I want to see competitive racing, and I want to see there be a little bit more drama every week. And so we got that at least the last 2 weeks, which is good. One thing we didn't mention on our last show after Miami, because we did it right after the show, 3 million people tuned in to watch that race. It was the most watched Grand Prix in the history of Formula One, which is crazy here in the United States.
That is crazy. I mean, the US gets 3 races on the calendar, so I
Mhm.
would hope that you're paying attention at least a little bit if you're an American fan.
Mhm.
But, just even if you're not, give it a try. Like I got sucked into it and I didn't think I would really enjoy motorsports too
Mhm.
much. Like it's very different than NASCAR. So if you're like, "Oh, it's just like
Yes.
that," don't give it a try. Give IndyCar a try. If you're like, it's just like NASCAR, it's not. So if you're like, I can't watch cars go in a circle for 3 hours, try F1, try IndyCar, try some of these uh, other motorsports.
Mhm. I endorse that
Yeah.
9,000%.
Yeah, Richie wholeheartedly advocates for that stance. So yeah, and if you like motorsports and you want to talk motorsports, you can go hang out with them over at Speed Freaks.
Thank you. There's the
Yeah,
promo, ladies and gentlemen.
you're welcome. Thanks for setting me up for that one.
Yeah, I sent you a text this week that the speed trap at IMS this week for qualifying, for qualifying,
Mhm.
they were going 240 miles per hour
Yeah,
into
also
turn,
miles per hour, not kilometers,
yeah,
miles per hour.
into turn 3, I believe. Turn 3.
Mhm,
I was like, "Oh my goodness." And they're averaging the we're doing this before pole qualifying, but
mhm.
on the Saturday before, the way they do qualifying at IMS for the 500 is you do 4 laps around the 2.5 mile track. So you run 10 miles on your during your qualifying run, and your average speed over those 4 laps is what gets you qualified. And so the top average on Saturday was about 233.5 miles per hour.
That's insane. That's insane. Yeah, like that I don't that's crazy. My dad and I, last year were able to see a little bit of the 500 qualifying. We just happened to be driving back that day. We're like, "Let's stop at the track and see if there's anything going on." And they were running a couple of cars, and it was so cool to watch. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's arguably one of the more accessible races, I think, for the general population. Like everybody knows about the Indy 500, especially where, I'm at in Indiana. Like that's the
Hmm.
thing, obviously. But I feel like that's pretty generally accessible. Um, it was really fun last year. That was a fun race. I got into that.
Hmm. Hopefully this year,
Hopefully no more tires in the parking lot.
no more tires in parking lot. That was ridiculous. There were 3 red flags last year. Last year's race was one of the best races I've ever seen, truly. So I don't know if this year is going to be the same. There was a few surprises in qualifying, guys who got left out of the top 12 that would normally be in the mix. So um, we also have Kyle Larson. I don't know if you know about this. This will be the last thing we talk about before we move on to other stuff. We have so much to talk about this week. Um, but Kyle Larson, who is a NASCAR Cup Series champion from a few years ago, he is currently the points leader in the NASCAR Cup Series right now. He is attempting to become the first driver in a decade to complete both the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day. So he's going to attempt
What?
to run 1,100 miles in one day in two
24
completely different
hours of
cars.
Nürburgring. Yeah, crazy. What?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I would
So
never.
this is his first time
Crazy.
in an Indy car, and he went out and qualifying yesterday and qualified 6th on day one.
Okay.
Not bad for the new
No.
guy, right?
No, not bad at all. All right, that's one thing to keep an eye on. That's good. Good intel. Good intel.
All right,
All
we can
right.
move on now.
What do we got? Let's kick it. Richie's in some choice apparel today. You want to kick it to our boy Jürgen?
Yes, absolutely. Sad day for us Liverpool fans. That's why I'm wearing my Liverpool hat, Liverpool Football Club, because today is the end of an era for the Reds, the Merseyside squad. Because today, Sunday, the last day of the Premier League season, Liverpool said goodbye to their longtime manager Jürgen Klopp. Started in 2015. And over the course of his nearly 9 years on the job, he won 7 major trophies, including a Premier League title, the first in 30 years for Liverpool. That he won a Champions League title. He won the Super Club, the Club World Cup, the FA Cup, and he won 2 Carabao Cups as well. And he really revitalized the club for the most part. That was really kind of in between, right after Steven Gerrard's after he left the club many years
For sure.
ago. And
Mhm.
so he came in and they were looking to revitalize the club, and he did that. And he really brought seemingly, again, as somebody who's a new fan, I think you are a little bit too, but seemingly just brought this city together on this ride over the last 9 years, and accomplished things that not many people thought he could accomplish. And sucks to see him go. We were watching a little bit of the post game afterwards, and like at Anfield after they won their final match, and it's like nobody left Anfield. It was still packed with like 60,000 people as they were going out to do the post game like goodbyes, official goodbyes. And so yeah, it's a sad day to say Jürgen go. I love Jürgen. He's very scary. He's from Germany,
The
but
German, yeah.
like he'll like kick you in your ass 1 second and then hug you the next. And so he's like the type of coach that I think anybody want to play for. So, good luck, Jurgen. Whatever you do next, I don't know
Yeah.
what he's going to be up to. I don't know if he's going to go manage elsewhere, or he's going to just like chill out, relax, retire. But
I think they said that he's just
congratulations.
kind of taken a little break from football for a little bit, which like obviously makes sense. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you eat, sleep, and breathe it for so many years. Sometimes you need to just kind of step back from it. But yeah, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Liverpool, where your allegiances lie, he was good for the sport and he was good for the club, and just very like had such a specific sense of humor. Like if you watch some of his interviews and the sound bites and things that he gave, like just very candid, very personable, very honest. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of that is just the passion that Europe has for the sport that a lot of people, didn't leave and stuck around. But it's also, speaks to the kind of person that he was, and the fact that the fans get a chance to know that that's the last moment that, he's stepping away, and you get to appreciate that, I think is sort of the last gift that he gave us, was like you're able to sit and soak in that moment and take in all the good stuff instead of, an abrupt departure or something like that, which we've had happen to us. Like I think the closest thing I can think of would be like if we had known that maybe Shane Doan's final game was going to be his final game, nobody would have left that arena. People would have stayed
Mm-hmm.
around for hours to see that guy. Um, and the number of times that we've had sports figures just very quietly sort of hang it up in the off season and not get the chance to appreciate having that last little bit. You don't know what you have until it's gone. So a very well-deserved send-off for him. And it's been fun. It's been fun the last couple of years to follow that team, and a lot of that has to do with him. So we'll see what's next. But yeah, well-deserved congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're just into the internet garbage posting. We started it off very serious and very in-depth analysis, and now the next thing on our list
Uh-huh.
is Chili's and Red Lobster closing. I just put this in the show notes. We don't necessarily have to talk about it. It's also changed since I put this on the show doc, because I initially thought that it was like Chili's was closing all their locations. There's so much like pop culture about Chili's also, like prominently featured in The Office, prominently featured in one of the greatest vines of all time, which is Hi, Welcome to Chili's. Just that would have been crazy to see them all shutting their doors. And I guess that's not happening. They're just like closing a handful of restaurants because the ownership group is like, these chain restaurants are not working, dog. That's, yeah, I mean, that's all changing. Like the stuff that used to be around a lot, I think, when both of us were kids, are like going away because everybody wants drive through now. Everybody wants quick service. Nobody goes to sit in a restaurant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Chili's closing, Red Lobster closing, Applebee's closing. But then you have the other side of the coin too, which is like Denny's does not care. Denny's will endure. Waffle House does not care. It's like the Waffle House tornado index. That's like if the Waffle House is closed, that's how you know it's serious. Uh, Olive Garden breadsticks. Like just there's the other side of that where
When
they
you're
just
here,
don't
your
they don't
family.
care. That's not still a thing though? Didn't they change it?
I think that's been long gone, but
What? No, it still applies. Whatever. Endless soup and salad. Whatever. Um,
couldn't tell you the last time I went to a Red Lobster. Actually, to be
no.
honest, don't think I've ever been to
I don't
a
think I
Red
ever
Lobster.
have. No. So I don't know why we're like mourning this place that we've never been, but I think it's just because we got so used to having it around that you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Um, I'm curious. I jotted this down. If you had to pick one chain to get rid of entirely, what would it be? Like, what would
Oh
you shut
man,
down? Yeah, what
what
would
I
you
shut
shut down
down?
ASAP? Like,
Um,
you're the health inspector. You get to shut down a place entirely.
oh,
What would it be?
Chick-fil-A.
What? Really?
Yes.
What's your rationale? I'm interested.
Well, I think there's a very obvious one, which is, let's just say they are very religious people.
Chick-fil-A's politics. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'll just keep it at that.
Okay.
Also, their food is not very good either. The most
I
overrated crap is their chicken sandwich. I've had it a couple times, and it's just like I've never been like, oh, I'm craving a Chick-fil-A
yeah,
sandwich right now.
it's not that good. I've had a craving for the waffle fries occasionally, but I think that's also because that's one of the only places that has
Yeah.
waffle fries like in the
Mm-hmm.
fast food landscape, so maybe that's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could let that go and be okay with it. Um, Mine is any of those buffet style restaurants, like Golden Corral. I will never
Mm-hmm.
set foot in a Golden Corral. You go. Goodbye. That's no, that's not for me. Maybe that's just Midwest, but I'm like, go away, Golden Corral. No, thank you.
So I used back when I was younger, my grandparents used to go to, I think it was called Old Country Buffet or something like that. Have you heard of this
Hmm.
place? Right? Yeah. So we used
Okay.
to go on a pretty regular basis to this place because I don't know, like as a family. I don't know why that was our go-to spot, but it was. And we used to go there, I don't know, a couple times a month with like my grandparents and some of my other family. So I have fond memories of going to a place like that when I was younger. So even though I
That
haven't been
brought
there in
back
probably a decade, at least 15 years even.
what did that bring? That brought back for me Marie Callender's, which used to be a restaurant and not just a frozen food in the
I did
grocery
not know
store
that.
aisles. It did. I think I've only been there a handful of times, but I remember as a kid going there with my grandma and my mom a couple of times. Um, and what else did that bring back? Sweet tomatoes, which was like also buffet
Mm,
style. I don't know if you've ever been.
yep.
Sweet tomatoes, and then what was it? It wasn't like was it like super salad? That was like
Super sad.
also a
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm remembering that one specific building. I don't know if you know, but it's on like out by Peoria, like off of the I-17 that you like used to be able to see from the freeway, and it was such a strange shaped building, but I think it used to be like a sweet tomatoes or a super salad or something.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yep.
Yes.
It was like
Yeah, it
that
was
one.
sweet
It's that
tomatoes. Yeah.
that building. Yeah.
Yes, because I used to take that all the time because I used to um uh back in the ASU days, used to take the shuttle bus between ASU West Campus because I lived
There
on
you
the
go.
west side.
Yep.
So I used to park West Campus and take the shuttle up to 17. So I used
Mhm.
to drive by there like every day.
That's a very specific Arizona thing, but I was like, there's always that weird shaped building. And that was over by where that the Fry's Electronics, which is not a thing anymore, but the
Right.
one
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
themed inside like a Mayan temple, like that
Yeah.
feels like a fever dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Try explaining that to anybody that doesn't know what a Fry's Electronics is. They're like,
All right.
what did you take before you went in there? Because that's not real. Yeah. Wild.
I used to think that place was
Anyway.
really cool when I was a kid because it was, first
It
of all,
was. It still
it
is.
was so freaking massive, and it had like everything you can think of. I remember I used to go there all the time when I was a kid, and like because for some reason that's like we wouldn't go to Best Buy, we go to Fry's. Like I don't know why, and I
Right.
don't know. And
Circuit City. Yeah.
Circuit City too, yes. And they
Peters.
used to, and so I used to play. I actually remember the time they had an N64 set up there, and so I played the Pokemon N64, like Pokemon Battle, I think is what it was called, or something like that. I used to go and play that game all the time, just on the. That was fun.
That was
This is
back
like
when
reminiscing.
yeah. No, that was back when back in my day. When that
We're
was when
dating
like
ourselves
flat
here.
right when like flat screen TVs felt like unattainable, you know what I mean? Like now they're just so commoditized, like you can just go get a dang TV.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like walking into those places and they always had that little like theater area set up and they would just have a
Yeah.
wall of flat screen TVs. And as a kid, it was like watching the fish tank at the aquarium. You're like, whoa. Like, I want to have one of these. Like when you had the box back when everybody had the box TVs and they just made that frequency noise when you turned them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's so dating ourselves.
How do we get off on this tangent?
Who
I don't even
knows?
remember.
Let's talk about ADHD.
Perfect segue.
Yeah, thank you. I set that one up.
So I had a tweet linked here. The tweet has now
Mhm.
been like deleted. It is now gone. But
Oh,
we'll talk about the basic
yeah, I
tenet
think
of
I
the thing.
remember what this was.
The basic tenet of the tweet was basically explain that, like, oh, you know your ADHD if you just don't want to fold your clothes, which I sent to you this week, and I was like, I feel attacked. I feel
No,
attacked
this
by
is true.
this.
This is true. I legitimately in my front room, there is a chair. I have 2 like bar stools out at you know this because you've been in my place,
Mm-hmm.
but like I have 2 bar stools out in the kitchen area where like you can eat at the high top island if you want to, but I don't ever sit over there because I always just have jackets over the chairs. And I told myself I was gonna be better about like hanging them up and putting them away. I'm not good at that still. So I just have jackets over there, and they're all the ones that I wear regularly, so I've now just gotten lazy to the point where I'm like, I know the one that I want is somewhere in here, I'm just gonna dig through the pile, like, instead of putting them away. Everybody has the chair, you know what I mean? That's like, you wore a shirt once, and it's not dirty enough to wash it, but you also, like, didn't hang it back up, and you're like, "It's over here somewhere, I'll find it if I need it." Yeah, that's a personal attack on us. But I think that was
Mm-hmm.
the thing, it was like, if you have undiagnosed ADHD, you just have, like, the chair. Like, "Yep, there it is."
Or in my
Okay.
case, I have a dryer full of clothes still that are still in the dryer that I haven't taken out
See,
yet.
I won't go that far. I don't I have to take them out, if I put them in the dryer. Also, because 'cause they'll get wrinkled, and then that just makes more work for me later. I'm like, "I might as well just put these away." Um, I will go that far, though, like, if I've worn something, I'll just, like, sling it over the chair, be like, "Well, here it is." But if my shirt gets wrinkled, like, that's just that's gonna be a problem for future me that I'm trying to prevent, so
Mm-hmm.
has to get hung up. Okay, what else? Internet recap. This is just turning into the internet recap show. We have the New York Giants, I think their 100th season uniforms. This wasn't a leak, right? This was just an
No,
official
they actually
release?
they unveiled these
Okay.
for sure. They absolutely did. So let's zoom in on this thing. These are the new New York Giants, yeah, 100th anniversary like throwback look here. And all the jokes were the same, which is they look like the Montreal Canadiens, and they do.
Yeah, they do, and it's the cream pants for me. I think it was Calgary. Do you remember that wore the cream colored pants in the Winter
The
Classic a
outdoor
couple of
game, yeah.
years ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's infamously that net cam shot of the goalie that looks like he has, like, a stain on his cream colored pants.
Yeah.
That also might have been Eddie Lack, which, like, it's so funny to think about now. Um, it's the helmet for me. Can you pull that back up real quick? It's the Giants helmets because I'm not a Michigan fan by any means, even though, like, I guess now I have Big Ten bias, but I just don't think anybody else should do the winged helmet. I get where it's coming from. That's, like, the origin of the team. It was, like, the
Mm-hmm.
1930, 1940s style, I just don't think anybody else should do that. It just looks wrong. Save
Yeah,
for like
just
maybe a random high school football team, because that does happen where like they steal team logos and like helmets
mhm,
and stuff. Like that's fine, but it's a very high school football thing to do at the professional level.
exactly. Ugly. That's an F.
Ugly.
Also, you get an
Yeah.
F because Daniel Jones is still your stupid quarterback over there. How you got away with doing that for as long as they have is ridiculous. But I digress.
The people want Tommy Cutlets. No, we don't. It's just, that's a loss. The whole thing is a loss. Just cut your losses. Okay. Do you briefly? We have more beef with Netflix.
Yes, we do. We do
We do.
because we were excited. Here's the, I don't even have Netflix anymore.
Hmm.
Um, it's overpriced and ridiculous, and we're still mad. We're still mad about Warrior Nun getting canceled. So I refuse to give them any more of my money. Um, but Madame Web was on allegedly put on Netflix this week until
We were so, you saw us post about it. We talked about it last episode. We were so excited. So excited about it.
I was excited to
Go
see
ahead.
Jordan's letterboxed about it because she hadn't
I
seen it
know.
yet.
Me
And
too.
then you sent me a screenshot that was like, "What the hell, Netflix? Please explain."
Netflix, come in close, Netflix. Look me in my eyes. How are you gonna paywall Madam Web? I get it when I sort of get it. I still don't get it. I pay for this. I pay for your service. You did it with anyone but you. Fine. I realized the demand for it was going to be high. You're going to look me in the eyes and tell me that you think that many people are going to upgrade the streaming service to watch Madam Web? Where if that's where you're trying to get your pennies, I think you guys have bigger problems. So really, this is an idea. Just really quick off the top of our heads, we just came up with this. We haven't thought about it at all. But we'd like to pitch you, maybe renew Warrior Nun if you need a boost to your revenue. Just putting that out there. Putting that out there.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I
Yeah.
just saw they renewed another show that I don't think I've ever heard about or anybody talk about
They
ever.
keep doing that. No, they
I'm
keep
like,
doing that.
why are you? I don't remember the name of the damn show. It was like renewed for season 3. I was like, nobody even knows about this show.
Because it doesn't matter. Maybe that's just the corner of the internet that we're on where like, but I continue to see people advocating for Warrior Nun every week, very regularly. Like people are not letting this thing go. We're not letting it die. But hey, I don't know. That's our beef. But let's move on to the thing that arguably we're going to spend the most time talking about this episode. And sorry, I just got a text. Because I'm on my MacBook, so it like shows in the corner.
ADHD.
I know, it's like, ooh, something shiny. Let's talk about the new Billie Eilish album. What are your thoughts?
Billy's new album called "Hit Me Hard and Soft." This is her third full length record, or is it? Or was her first record an EP? I don't know, but anyway, I
Yeah,
digress.
third full length, because it was When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go was her first full length, but
Hmm.
prior to that was, oh my goodness, Don't Smile at Me. I was like, it's the one where it's the yellow one with the ladder on it. That I think was just an EP.
Yeah,
So this is her third. It was When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, which is a multiple Grammy Award winner. I think maybe also Best Album. Or at least Best New Artist or whatever. And then Happier Than Ever, which was her second release, and then this one. Go ahead.
yeah. So, her debut album. This is like setting expectations. It won Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal, Best Engineered Album. Bad Guy won Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Phineas also won Producer of the Year. So, just like it's I don't know how you follow that up, but I honestly believe she has managed to do that tenfold with this new record, Hit Me Hard and Soft. Um, and yeah, I'll just dive in. I think this is her best work yet, in my opinion. This is her best work yet. Uh, I really like this record. The first time I listened to it, and this doesn't happen very often, with me anymore, because on first listen you're just kind of in your, you're just kind of going through it and you're listening to it. I don't know, but you're not really processing it. But here, I honestly forgot. I looked at my phone. It was like 10:30. I go, oh crap, Billy's new album's out. Play. And um and I was blown away. I multiple times listening to the first time for the first time this record, I was like, wow, this is
Mhm.
insane. This is so good. Um, Billy's vocals on this record are the best she's ever done. Like
Mhm.
this is a pretty well known thing, right? The same thing happened with Taylor Swift, right? Where as you get older, you learn to use your voice as as another instrument. And now that Billy has gotten older, like her voice is truly incredible. And we heard it on What Was I Made For on the Barbie soundtrack, right? And that
Mhm.
song is beautiful. And it's a lot because of her voice. And she does that again on this record. That's the first thing that stood out to me. And the other thing that stood out to me is Phineas's production on this record
Yeah.
is just insane. And I don't know if you agree with me on this. I honestly believe, like, I know Jack Antonoff is like the guy everybody wants to work with, but Phineas to me has eclipsed Jack Antonoff as the best producer in pop music right now. The stuff he does on this record is nuts. Like, it's so many times I was like, whoa, wow, did he actually do that type of stuff, right?
It
Um,
is. It's crazy, and their dynamic is so cool because there's nobody else that hardly anybody else that works inside that bubble. Like from the start, from back at Billy's first record, it's really just been the two of them, and it's incredible that in today's day and age where so many people have ghostwriters or extra producers or this, that, and the other thing, add the gimmick, add the layers, they have kept true to just that sibling dynamic and stripped away all the rest of it and largely just made music themselves from their bedroom and just it's incredible. There's the documentary of hers that was on Apple Music is really or Apple TV is really interesting if you haven't had a chance to see that. Um, I would love to live in that guy's brain just for a minute or just, live inside his DAW, his music production software just for a minute and see what's going on in there. I love when people do breakdowns of how they produced a track, what the thought is behind that. It always seems like they're finding new and different ways to innovate the sound. And there are a couple songs on this album, and largely like the whole record, it never quite settles into one genre. And sometimes that's a bad thing. I love it here. It really
mhm.
works. It keeps you on your toes the whole time. You're waiting and anticipating where it's going to go next. And we see some different risks, some different vocal style. Like you said, we get arguably some of the most powerful Billy vocals. Um, I would go back to No Time to Die. Remember the single that she did
Yes,
for the James Bond films?
yes.
That was one of the first times we really heard her like project and use her voice in a way that was very different from the previous albums where it was all very, very quiet, very close to the microphone, very like in the room with them. And I like that new risk that she's taking, and I think that sound is gonna continue to evolve over the course of her career. And I'm optimistic that we haven't heard the last of this kind of new, innovative Billy style because it's incredible. Yeah. I wanted to kick this to you. I jotted this down since you are our resident on the show that you love to put the clown makeup on.
Mhm.
Have you seen and are you buying this double album conspiracy about it?
I've seen a lot of this. I've seen a
Mhm.
lot of this because this happens, I
What do
think,
you
with
think?
every artist. I think, as we previously talked about, I think during the Taylor, like, I feel like
Yeah, it
every
does now.
artist, there are rumors about multiple albums coming.
Mhm.
And like one of the more interesting things about this, and I saw some discourse about this, is that um, like Dua Lipa put out her record recently, and it was
Mhm.
a fairly short record. There was only, I don't know how many songs there were only like 10 or 12, right? It was 45 minutes in and out, right?
Yeah,
Same thing with this Billy. It's 10 songs, it's 40 minutes, it's in,
45
it's out,
minutes.
it's
Yep.
compact, it tells
Mhm.
its own story, and it's done. And there's something to be said about that. And in a way, that's kind of gone away because a lot of artists are moving more towards this release schedule where they'll put out their record and it's, an hour long or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And then they'll add on more to that later on with like a deluxe record. Like Noah Khan did that, right? He seemingly has been putting out
Oh
music
my good
consistently for the
gracious.
last year and a half, right? And it's tough to
Right, he's
keep up.
never gonna be done with that Stick Season album. He's still
Yeah.
writing.
So I don't know. I mean, it's been a while since she last put out music. She had talked about
Mhm.
previously about how she was kind of in this nowhere space for a while in terms of writing where she was like stuck and like wasn't really sure what kind of trajectory to take. And then she got into kind of production mode for this record. And if I remember correctly from the Rolling Stone piece, she said that Skinny was written, I think, prior to What Was I Made For. So Skinny was
Mhm.
like kind of the first concept of this record, which is why Skinny sounds a little bit like What Was I Made For, in my
It
opinion.
does,
It's
it's
they're
very
very
ballady, yeah.
yeah, they're very
Mhm.
kind of um sister tracks in a way to each
Yeah.
other. And then that led into the rest of the record. And I'm wondering if in that process there are a lot more songs left on the table that she's eventually going to release, and I think she will. It's just a matter of when. So I
Mhm.
I honestly do believe that there's a second part to this record that we haven't heard yet. Whether or not
Yeah,
it's a full 12 song album, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if I'm
right.
fully buying that. My hope is that she doesn't. She just puts these 10 songs out there and lets it be. We don't really need
Mhm.
any more. Not because I don't think that the new songs are going to be great. I think they are, but it's just like there's something to be said about doing it this way instead of what Taylor did, which is release 31 songs and it's just like almost too much.
Yeah,
But
it's
here's
very dense when you
yeah,
do it that way. Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think I'm ready to commit to the double album theory. I am ready to commit to there's probably stuff that got left on the cutting room floor that didn't fit the trajectory of this album. Um, just earlier, maybe last week, it was when Gracie Abrams released that she's doing her full length one, which is going to have a Taylor Swift feature, and we'll probably end up talking about it on the show at a later date. Um, there were a lot of people really digging around in some of Gracie Abrams' unreleased stuff, one of which I keep sending to Richie. It's called Close to You. There's like a 1 minute snippet out of it. It sounds like a sister track to Lord's melodrama album, essentially. It's got a very different feel than a lot of the stuff that Gracie has released. And she talked about it where she was initially never planning on releasing that track because it just didn't fit thematically with the world of the album that she was creating or what she was making at the time. And then the time came later where it felt like a logical piece to that puzzle. And I think we could track that probably down the line with Billie as well, that maybe the next record will have stuff that thematically got cut from the floor of this one. Um, Even if it's like a year and she decides to release, a sister album or a sequel album or something like that, kind of like what Taylor did with Folklore and Evermore. Um, I like that idea more than I like here's a double deluxe. Like let it have its moment, let it have its analysis as a standalone entity, and then release your second one if you're gonna do it. But we've also seen people go and cancel a second one. Like I don't know if you remember this, but the Half Alive EP, or I think it's an EP now, but they called it Give Me Your Shoulders Part 1, and then there just never was a part 2 because they rolled all of that into a bigger entity that they decided to call Conditions of a Punk, not Confessions of a I was like, Confessions of a Shopaholic, not right. But anyway, like we've seen artists take a different trajectory in the future, and I think we could see something like that. I think there's more. There might not be more for us to consume yet, and I'm fine with it. You're Richard, you're on mute.
thank you. Sorry.
There you go.
I
Yep.
cannot wait for the Grammys next year because it's going to be a flippin' dogfight between, and there's probably more to come. But like last year, there were so many female artists
Mhm.
in like the album of the year conversation, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen again because I think right now your top three contenders in no particular order, Taylor, Beyonce, Billie for
Mhm.
album of the year is just gonna be ridiculous. Um, and all three of those albums are terrific in their own right. So I if I had to if I had to pick, I honestly think Billy is the front runner right now for album of the year, in my opinion. It was the album I think is the most interesting and stands out among the rest for me. But that's
Mhm.
just again.
It's gonna be a very close vote because I think what we saw Taylor do with Tortured Poets is also a departure from her past works. It's a new sound. The voters love the new sound, right? They're not gonna be voting for as much as I have started to like this record, it's not for me, but they're not gonna, probably vote for, like, a Dua Lipa, a Radical Optimism over something like Beyonce's Act 3, uh, Billie's record, Taylor's record, because all of those 3 things are different sonically from what they've released in the past, and the voters love when people are willing to take risks and sort of innovate that music instead of keeping it where it's been. I think that's why Folklore got so much critical acclaim, and maybe why part of the reason why Evermore didn't, because they were sonically very close together. And I think that a lot of people roll those together and don't consider them separate entities. That's just my beef because Evermore is the forgotten child, and I love that record, but uh, Taylor has forgotten that she exists. But
Yeah, yeah.
we haven't forgotten.
No, we have not. Long, long live, long live Evermore.
Long live
All right.
Evermore.
We have just a few minutes left in the show, but plenty of time to touch on our last two topics here. So,
Hmm.
what do we got? What do we got left?
We might go 3 straight of keeping it at an hour. Um, I'm gonna let you state your case here. This is a text I
Mm-hmm.
received from Richard this morning. Hold on, let me get it. He said, first world problems is not having any ice for my coffee. Facepalm emoji, crossed arms emoji. And I sent him back and I was like, do you not own an ice maker? So state your case.
I don't own. Well, I do, but it doesn't work. I have my freezer. There's an ice maker in the freezer, but has never worked. Tried to
Okay.
get it to work when I first moved in. I was like, when I signed my paperwork, I was like, the ice maker doesn't really work, and so I think they know about it. But I was like, instead of putting in like a work order to get it fixed, I was like, I'll just go and buy ice. So that's what I do. I'll just buy my bag of ice, and it lasts me like a long time. It lasts me like over a month, and I was, this is, I like this better anyway. I don't. The ice machine is annoying, and then you have to clean it all the time. And it's like screw it. So bagged ice for me, everybody. And I ran out of bagged ice and so I didn't have any for my coffee this morning, but I made it work. I this is what I did for my coffee after the F1 race today. I made my espresso. Put the
Your me
espresso in
espresso.
my mi espresso. See what you did there. And I put it in the freezer for like 10 minutes, and that's how I got it cold. Worked out perfect.
I'm interested. I'm interested in where you think ice comes from that it's unattainable to make it yourself. Like, they have ice trays that you can purchase
Yes.
for probably 79 cents at
Yeah.
Walmart. And you can put water in those. And I don't know if you're familiar, but if you
You have to
freeze
use
a
tap
solid,
water.
you can put whatever you want in there. You can put bottled water in it. If you have a Brita, you can put filtered water in there. I don't know if you know this, but if you freeze water, it turns into ice.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's news, but then you can just have free ice instead of buying bagged ice. You're always the one that calls out capitalism on this show, and you've been buying bagged ice the whole time. He's staring. He's staring at me like he hates my guts right now. I'm just so you know that's you can do that. It's allowed. You're allowed to make your own ice.
That's so
Mhm,
true. That's so true.
mhm.
I'm not going to change. I'm too stubborn to change. I don't like the tap water. It's disgusting. So, plus, I don't like the cracking of the thing. I'm like, no, it doesn't. That's too much
It's kind of
work.
it's kind of satisfying to crack an ice tray. You know what I mean? Like it's the crunch, the like
Yes, yeah, I've done it
the
before. Yeah,
very
I
yeah.
used to do it at my parents all the time. There's not many ice cubes in there. I like a lot of ice in my beverages,
All
and so
right.
like I have to fill it up every day. I don't want to fill that thing up every day and then wait for it to
You're gonna
freeze.
use an
No, I ain't got
entire
time for that. I'm a
you're gonna use
busy
an
man.
entire ice tray in your cup. That's like 12 full-size ice cubes.
Yeah, why not? Yes.
Oof. Okay. That's all right. Do your thing. Do your thing. Like as I'm calling you out about your one brain cell, and then the last thing we have on the document is my one brain cell, so that feels accurate. For anybody on the show that's particularly eagle-eyed, you might notice I'm sporting some different jewelry. You can't see this one because the AirPod, but I usually have those just little black studs in my ears. And I made a grave error yesterday, which is that I was taking them out to clean them, and with this style, it doesn't have like a push through back, which is like a very traditional earring. It sits inside of a flat back. So you have like your top part that has the actual piece on it, and then it has a little post, and it fits inside the tube that is essentially the back of the earring. I was taking them out to clean them because I was like, it's kind of getting kind of gross. Like it attracts my like conditioner and shampoo and stuff when I shower. I was like, I'm just going to go and clean this. I don't know why I didn't think about doing it this way. I was just deciding to clean them in my bathroom, over top of the sink, not thinking that this would happen. And I popped one out and it went straight down the sink drain. Like before I could do anything about it, it was like popped out. I lost my grip on the top and it went tink, 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 and just clattered around and then went straight down the drain. I was like, okay, sick. So I was like, that's gone forever. My brain first thought was take a magnet. It was not this one because this is too big to fit down the drain, but I had a little magnet and I was like, if I just tie a magnet on a string and I fish it down in there, like, you know what we used to all envision doing as a kid, like tying a quarter on a string and putting it in the soda machine and then seeing if you can get the soda for free. Yeah. It was like the grown-up version of that where I was like, if I just go fishing with this magnet, because it has the, metal post on it, I was like, I'll be able to get it. That didn't work. Okay. Or I thought that it didn't work because I'd pulled up this piece of this like little black thing. And I was like, oh, it like the top for sure shattered when I dropped it down in there. And this is just a piece of it. I was like, I'm never getting this back. I was like, maybe there's a chance. So I open up the under of my sink. This is a thing I've never done before, by the way. So I had to Google how to do it. And I was like, if I get down in there and it's got like blue tack on it, or if it looks like it's too complicated to do this, I'm just gonna leave it be and buy a new pair because they were like $10. But I'm just too stubborn. I was like, I have to see if it's down in there. So I go in there, and what you can do, this is a life pro tip. If you ever lose something down the drain, it's not gone forever. Just don't run water through it because then it can like flush it through that little bend in there. If it goes, it'll just drop straight down into that little U-bend at the bottom of your sink. Just go and unscrew that piece. Make sure you have a bucket under there because there will be water that comes out. But go and unscrew it. It's like a little oil change for your sink. And you pull the bottom bend out, and whatever you found will just be in the bottom there. And I did successfully manage to recover it. It was disgusting. It doesn't smell good to take apart your sink. I'll tell you that. Like, just don't think about it too hard. But the reason they're not in my ears is because I was so off put by it that I was like, I need to soak these in hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol for like a good 24 hours before I feel good about putting this back in my ear.
Yeah, those things
But
would never go
mission
back in my.
accomplished.
Those things would never go back in my ear. I
No,
was like,
well,
I did, because you did the
yeah.
thing. You did the thing. You did it, and you got the thing. I was like, I know how to do it. Cool.
Mhm.
Let's go. Just go buy another pair now.
The difference is like with this kind, it wasn't the part that actually goes through my ear that fell down. It was just the part that sits inside the holder. So I'm like, it's not really touching I'll feel good about it if I sterilize it. So anyway, if you ever lose something down your sink, if you lose a ring, a necklace, a priceless family heirloom, 25 cents, whatever it might be, you can just take the little U-bend out. Okay, that's it. Plumbing advice. You can follow us at 1 Hour One Brain Cell, OHOBC Pod on all of the socials for everything you might need, including plumbing advice. I have been Jordan. My co-host has been Richie. We are hoping to keep this to an hour, so we're going to sign off. We appreciate you. Please come back.